8, 9, 100. Oh hey, I didn't see you there. I was just busy with my 10th set of bicep curls. You may be wondering, you're not student aesthetics, what's going on? Well, don't worry, everything will be explained very soon. But in the meantime, let's get a little bit more comfortable. Much better. Hey guys, my name is Igor and I have a channel right here on YouTube called Vitruvian Physique. It's a channel focusing on fitness and nutrition just like student aesthetics. In fact, that is what brought us together because we both love making videos and educating you guys on these topics. Why are you looking at me like that? I'm serious, that's it. That's the only thing we have in common. We just love making videos on fitness, nutrition, and teaching you guys. Alright, fine. You want to know the truth? We're part of a secret organization. Welcome to the amazing YouTube Hair Society. The society was formed many millennia ago to maintain the balance between hair and physique aesthetics. It has included members such as Z's, Steve Cook, Keto Body, Rob Lipset, and Sadiq Hadzovic, until he was disbarred over the man bun incident.
We wanted to do a collab, but it's kind of hard considering we're about 5,000 miles away. So the next best thing is this. He put a video on my channel, and I put a video on his channel.
Alright guys, getting back on track. So my channel focuses on fitness and nutrition, informational videos, but at the same time it also focuses on competition because I am a 3-time men's physique and powerlifting competitor. I've competed in the OPA, which here in Canada is a precursor organization directly under the IFBB, at which point you have big names such as Jeff Seid, Steve Cook, Jeremy Buendia. So I noticed that when I was looking through Marin's videos, there was one Q&A video where he actually talked about competing sometime in the near future.
I have thought actually about competing in men's physique, and that would be going to happen in 2017 if I decide to do so. Because I just want to see how it is mentally to really get through that plateau, to really reach that next level, right? Mentally and physically.
So as he mentioned, when it comes to getting lean, let's be honest guys, it is kind of difficult. But when it comes to taking your physique to the competition level, going from lean to absolutely peeled and shredded, it takes another level. So that is what I want to talk about in this video. What differences do you have to make to your training, to your nutrition, to your life to get to that advanced level of conditioning? Now we are talking single-digit body fat, absolutely shredded to the core. Warning, if you guys are training for girls, this may not necessarily apply to you. In my experience, women love a guy who's lean, they love a guy who's got, aesthetics going on, who's got the six-pack, who looks healthy and active. But when it comes to depleting your subcutaneous fat down to pretty much what is your body's essential body fat limit, or as the Hodgkins refer to it as...
That's dick skin!
Yeah, some women, they may not like that. So without further ado, here are Vitruvian Physique's 7...
It's always funny when you find this stuff afterwards in post-production and it's too late to refilm it and you're just sitting here kind of like, God damn it, really? Are you serious, Igor? Like, really?
Tips that you guys need to take into consideration when going from lean to shredded in case you want to enter a men's physique competition. Alright, so the first thing you guys have to take into consideration pretty much pertains to the standards of conditioning. Guys who have six-packs, fantastic. You are probably, more fit and look better in terms of aesthetics and everything than like 99% of the people around you, and it feels awesome. But when it comes to men's physique or bodybuilding competitions, that doesn't matter. You got a six-pack? That's great. Get in line. So does everyone. At that point, you can't be just, kind of lean. When it comes to men's physique competitions, you have to be, 7, 8, maybe 9% body fat if you want to place like well, that is. And when it comes to bodybuilding, we're talking 7, 6, perhaps even 5% body fat. At this point, everyone's got a six-pack. It's no longer about that. It's who's got the shredded serratus, or who's got the striated glutes, or who's got that paper-thin skin where it seems like your subcutaneous fat has pretty much been depleted to nothing. So I just talked about the advanced conditioning standard that you have to bring when it comes to getting shredded or entering a men's physique competition. But how do you do it? Well guys, there is no magic answer. There's no secret tips that, this is how you get lean, but if you want to get shredded, completely do a 180 when it comes to your strategy. At the end of the day, there is no difference. The only changes you have to make are in regards to magnitude, not concept. So what I mean by that is you have to change the magnitude at which you diet in terms of doing it harder, doing it longer, getting a little bit more strict. In terms of, conceptually, you don't really do anything that much different. So you guys may be wondering, okay, well that's it. End of the video, I could turn it off if I've been dieting for 16 weeks and I want to keep on going and I'm lean, but I want to get peeled and shredded, keep doing it. It's not exactly that simple. And the reason behind this, if I want to explain it from a little bit of a mathematical standpoint. So guys, let's say you are starting your cut and you are 200 pounds, and let's say that you're, 18, 20% body fat, whatever, and you've got about 30 pounds of total body fat on you. From a mathematical standpoint, each 1 pound of body fat that you have on your body represents about 3 to 3.5% of total remaining body fat on you. So if you were to lose, 1, 2, couple pounds, it's not, for lack of a better word, that big of a shock for your body to lose that body fat. There is a basic required body fat level that you need to have on your body just for, basic health purposes to sustain life for all these other functions besides, just looking good. So in that case, your body's completely okay because you're far from that limit. Now, on the other hand, let's say you've been dieting for a long time and we're approaching, 11, 10, 9% body fat, breaking into that, going from lean to shredded, that barrier. At this point, you've got a lot less body fat on you, let's say 8 pounds. So now that 1 pound of body fat that you're trying to lose no longer represents, 3-ish% of total body fat remaining. Now it's like 12.5, 13% of total remaining body fat. At this point, it's a lot harder to do. Your body is going to be fighting back against you the entire time because even though you are still losing 1 pound of body fat, in terms of the proportion of total body fat remaining, it's quadruple. It went from 3% to 12% of total remaining body fat, and your body is going to be fighting back against you the entire time. So if you guys are out there thinking that it's going to be the same cakewalk that you took to get to 12% body fat, you got to just keep on going to 8% body fat, that is not the case. Like I mentioned, there is a basic healthy body fat level for each individual. For men, it varies, depends on your genetics, but it's usually about, I want to say, 4 to 5% body fat around there. For women, it's a bit higher, towards 10 to 13% body fat. At this point, if you continue naturally, that is, again, student aesthetics in my channel, I believe we both focus on natural bodybuilding. Not that we have anything wrong with, the other side of things, but just to keep things simple. Naturally, there's not much more you can do. Guys, if any of you guys are wondering, what would happen if you tried to keep going? If you got to that level of conditioning, like that essential body fat limit, and you kept on trying to push through, you dieted longer, you dropped your calories even further to the point where you're starving, thinking that you're gonna get down to like, 2% body fat, which by the way has pretty much never been done except for one guy, Andreas Munzer, and it didn't work out so well for him, he died. So guys, at this point, your body's down to its bare minimum health required levels of body fat. It will no longer metabolize additional body fat. In fact, it'll probably start going through your muscle storage and breaking down your proteins into amino acids and using that as an alternative form of energy. So at this point, you're pretty much done. In terms of body fat, you're not gonna go any lower. Sorry to burst your bubble. So why does it get so much more difficult? Why is it that, you were losing 1, 2, 3 pounds per week back then, and even though you haven't really changed anything and you're still, adhering to the diet, adhering to the training, adhering to the cardio, why is it getting so much more difficult as time goes on? Well, one of the biggest reasons is because your metabolism actually slows down. So there are a few reasons as to why this happens, but I'm gonna cover 2 big ones. Number 1 is that your body, in terms of lean body mass and the actual just total weight that your body has to move around, again, 200 pounds is very different from 180 pounds, let's say you've been cutting for a while. You're essentially 10% smaller of a human than you were when you originally started, and because of that, your metabolic principles in terms of how much energy your body requires to sustain that size has changed. So in the beginning, when you calculated your caloric maintenance level, your basal metabolic rate, that was based on your original starting level of mass, original starting level of muscle. Since then, you've lost size, you've definitely lost some muscle, because for us natural athletes, it's inevitable when you're cutting, you're gonna lose a lot of fat, hopefully, but you're gonna lose some muscle. It's just an inevitability, and you gotta accept that. It happens to the best of us. So in that case, you may have started on a 500 caloric deficit, but because your basal metabolic rate is coming down over time, since your body is shrinking and requires less energy to sustain that original mass, that 500 caloric deficit might be 400, 300, 200. In some cases, it'll get down to 0, and that is where you plateau in terms of weight loss, and you see people eating the exact same as they did a month ago, and they were losing weight, now completely flat. This happens, you gotta go even lower on your calories. Does it suck? Yes, it does, but that's life. The second biggest thing is a decrease in activity level. Guys, in my opinion, this happens in 2 ways, subconsciously and consciously. When it comes to subconscious decreases in activity level, we are referring to non-exercise activity thermogenesis, otherwise known as NEAT. This is pretty much involuntary, basic movements that your body does on a daily basis, which you may not even realize. So your body's, moving when it's sleeping. You wake up on this side, now you're on this side, or just like fidgeting. Like you might be sitting at a, computer, just doing like this. This burns calories. You may not realize it, but you do this here, you scratch your head here, all these minor movements, which they burn tiny amounts of calories, but when you add it up over time, that adds to your basal metabolic rate, that adds to your caloric expenditure on a daily basis, making it easier for you to lose weight. Now, when your body is dieting, it doesn't realize that you're doing this on purpose. It thinks you're dying. It thinks you're on a deserted island and you're, pretty much starving.
Well done! Well done!
So what it does on a subconscious level is it actually decreases this, not essential, non-exercise activity level. So you don't do this anymore, you don't do this, you don't do anything anymore, you're pretty much just a potato, and in doing so your basal metabolic rate comes down. Now on a conscious level, this is pretty much, very logic-based and standard, because let's be honest, when we're cutting, we feel like crap. Guys, when I'm in the off-season, I'll like skip to work and run up the stairs and everything will be okay. Elevator's not working, no problem. When you've been cutting for a while, when you're starting to, get into lower caloric intakes, you may not feel as great. A lot of people talk about how bodybuilders, when they're on stage and they're peeled and they look awesome, they look like, like Superman, they look their best, but they feel their worst. Yeah, that's kind of true. In the off season, I feel great, and right now, I'd rather put a bullet in my head than walk one flight of stairs. And there are even additional, minor adjustments to your metabolism, which you may not even notice, but they do happen, and they decrease your metabolism, making it difficult for you to sustain that caloric deficit. A weird one, which a lot of people do not know about, it's called the thermic effect of food. So the actual definition for this is, the thermic effect of food, or dietary-induced thermogenesis, is the amount of energy expenditure above the resting metabolic rate due to the cost of processing food for use and storage. So what I mean by this, guys, let's go into a very quick biology lesson. When you ingest food, it doesn't just magically go to where it needs to be. It's not like, you just burn it up or it immediately goes into fat or glycogen or muscle. It's kind of like an investment. To get something, first you have to put something in. For example, when you start a fire, first you have to light the match. So you may get a big, huge campfire going, which produces a lot of energy, but you still have to expend a little bit of energy to get that going. Same concept with food. So put a little bit of energy out, increases your basal metabolic rate on a small level, and the more times you do this throughout the day, because the more time you're eating, the easier it is for you to essentially, always just go through a little bit of calories. But when you've been cutting for a while and you're decreasing your calories, you're just eating less food in general. So in doing so, your body is going to have to expend less energy to metabolize and break down that food, because you're no longer doing 4,000 calorie days of 500 grams of carbs. Now you're sitting there eating broccoli and your sad little steamed vegetables or your protein shakes. There's less food coming in, so there's less requirement for your body to expend energy to metabolize that food, whether it be for storage or for energy. Another topic that I want you guys to take into consideration is that fat loss is not linear. Lots of times online or in person I talk to people and they say that they have their goals for a cut being, I want to lose, like 2 pounds of weight per week, or 1.5 pounds, or 3 pounds in some crazy cases. And this, I don't want to say it's incorrect, but in my opinion, it's a little bit misguided, because your body does not operate on this perfect straight line function. In fact, I found that through my research and my experience, fat loss is a negative exponential function. So if I draw that out for you guys, pretty much what this means is that you're gonna lose weight very fast in the beginning. There's a couple of factors to this. It's a big shock to your system. When you first introduce a caloric deficit, you are losing glycogen pretty fast, so it's a lot of water weight. And then, as you start cutting, you go at it for a couple weeks, it kind of goes into a linear-ish kind of function, where assuming that you are sticking to your macros, sticking to your calories, training, cardio, all these things, you will be losing weight at a fairly consistent basis. But when you start getting into good levels of conditioning, when we start approaching that single-digit body fat percentages, it actually plateaus very much so, and it forms what is called an asymptote, where it gets closer and closer and closer to a certain number, which here would be 0 pounds of fat loss per week. Pretty much you're done completely and you're no longer using fat. It's never going to get there, but it's going to slow down so much. And yes, guys, be warned, I tend to do this a lot. So if any of you are thinking about checking out my channel, be warned, there is a lot of random quantitative and mathematical stuff involved in fitness and nutrition. I'm like the opposite of that cool kid, the one in high school who was like, why are we learning all this algebra and math crap? It's not like we're ever gonna, use this in the real world. Well, joke's on you, bitch. I made a YouTube channel. I'm gonna make everything as mathematical and quantitative as possible. Biceps, math. Fat loss, math. How sad I was when Z's died, math. Guys, unfortunately, when it comes to a cut, there isn't much communication going on throughout your body. It's not like your brain could signal the rest of your body to, keep the metabolism going.
Alright guys, we're doing a men's physique show. You ready to shred? Yeah, let's do it! Alright stomach, you gonna keep that metabolism burning on full, right bro? You got it, man! Hey guys, do you think Natalie Dormer is actually gonna have to do that naked walk of shame thing in Game of Thrones? Shut up, genitals!
In addition, guys, unfortunately, there are a couple of annoying and weird things that happen to your brain on a psychological level when you're getting to such advanced levels of conditioning and you've been, in a caloric deficit for an extended period of time. The first one is irritability, and this one is kind of annoying. Last week, I got in a fight with my air conditioner and threw a folding chair at a mosquito. Yeah, it's weird. So another one is low libido, which is a great topic to get into on someone else's channel, where I'm gonna go way too much into TMI. Alright. So I know that a couple of other YouTubers, for example, Matt Ogus, has talked about, having issues with this, but pretty much because your testosterone is, pretty significantly depleted when you've been dieting for a long time, your low carbohydrates, low calorie intake, you may be, climbing into bed at the end of the night. Your girlfriend or wife may be like, lying there like butt-ass naked, but you're gonna be too busy looking at pictures of donuts on Instagram. But like, they're like really nice donuts. Like, next up, sodium and water. This one I just want to touch upon very quickly. A lot of times I see guys in the magazines and, professional fitness models and photo shoots or bodybuilders, and they'll be talking about like, oh, I'm holding some water, or I've got like some water, weight in my lower back, but don't worry, I'll fix that in like a couple of days. No, that's not how it works. If you think that you're holding water and that, you have to like, mess with that kind of stuff, that's not water, you're just fat. 99.99% of the general population when it comes to fitness does not need to worry about this stuff. The only people who may, still may, and it's kind of controversial, want to look into this kind of stuff is competitive men's physique or bodybuilding athletes, and they kind of mess with this stuff, 48 to 72 hours around there prior to a show, because when it comes to, looking good and aesthetic, you have to do that, all the time. It's a long-term goal. But when it comes to competitions in bodybuilding, you only need to really look your absolute best for 20 to 30 minutes that you are on stage. So these guys kind of manipulate, sodium and water, and this is a very short-term thing, because you can do all the crazy stuff in the world, and it might affect your physique in 24 to 48 hours, but that's it. So for the 99% of you who are watching this video, do not worry about that. If you ever hear someone talking to you about like, oh, I'm gonna cut sodium because I wanna look like leaner, that's not how it works. And number 7, the last thing I want to mention is that you may have to get a little bit creative when it comes to your overall routine. So when it comes to getting lean, it's simple. Eat less, move more, problem solved. I know guys who do not do cardio. I know guys who can, just decrease their overall calories. They don't have to start, messing around with anything too much. But when it comes to depleting your body so far in terms of carbohydrates and calories, the brute force method sometimes it may not work. So that's why a lot of people use things, for example, such as intermittent fasting, which I know that Marina has talked about on this channel. Fantastic. It helps with, energy timing. It helps with, curbing cravings. It helps with a lot of these things, just making the overall process maybe not like necessarily more efficient, at least in my opinion, but it could make it a lot easier on the individual. Another little tool would be something like carbohydrate cycling. So instead of just doing the exact same robotic, like monotonous, like this is my intake of carbohydrates every single day, you can kind of play around with it so that your overall weekly average of carbohydrates is still, in a caloric deficit, and you are still doing what you want on average, but you have high carb days, for example, on heavy training days, because you want to have as much carbohydrates as you can on your heavy leg day, heavy back day. And then on rest days, you don't really need that much. So you can do things like that. The final thing I want to mention would be perhaps changing the actual carbohydrates and food sources that you are ingesting. So I follow the principles of if it fits your macros and flexible dieting. So at the end of the day, in my opinion, yes, a carb is a carb, but it is going to have a little bit of an impact in terms of your energy and in terms of your hunger and satiation levels. For example, like, high glycemic index carbohydrates, like all that sugary junk food, that's going to give you an energy spike, and then you're going to be hungry again in an hour or two. Whereas low glycemic index carbohydrates, even though a carb is still a carb, each carb is still 4 calories, these take a little bit longer to process. It's going to give you a time release of energy, and you're going to feel fuller for a lot longer. And since you don't have those like those hunger attacks, it's going to be easier for you to eat in an overall daily low calorie, low carbohydrate diet. But guys, go give it a shot. Go eat a bowl of brown rice. Does it taste like bird food? Yeah, but you're going to be full the entire day, and you're not going to have that craving when it comes to like sugary carbohydrate snacks, thus making it easier for you to stick to your calorie targets. That's it, guys. That is the end of the video. So, in summary, if you followed, all of these 7 tips, you can make getting, absolutely shredded very, very simple. That's the key word, simple, because on paper and conceptually, it is simple, right? At the end of the day, you used to be, eating less and moving more, and now when you want to get shredded, you're just eating even less and moving even more. But when it comes to actual execution, that's where the hard part comes in. Last thing I want to mention is a few words of encouragement to student aesthetics. He has a fantastic physique. He's got aesthetics, but he's got a good combination of mass and conditioning. And I really think that he should go and he should do a competition, whether it be this year or 2017, whenever. In fact, I would go so far as to say that if you were to step on stage today, you would still place pretty damn well, at least in my opinion. And if you really want to take it to that next level of conditioning, that next level for competition, he can absolutely do it. I encourage him to do it. I know that he's gonna friggin' love it. The second you step on stage, you're gonna already be thinking about your next competition because it's that addicting. And you guys, the subscribers, the commenters, the viewers, like spam his comment section and be like, do it, man, do it. If you want to see him compete, I know I do. That being said, guys, I want to say a big thank you to Marine for letting me stop by this channel and talk to you guys, and thank you to each and every one of you guys for watching.
Damn, now I can't stop thinking about that hot Game of Thrones chick. I wonder if she's really gonna do it. What do you think, Hair?